Ooh, Plumb the Forbidden. Gross. Well, we got a little stack going here. Mango's got a bunch of sack triggers, and we've got a board wipe and a piece of spot removal. Wrath of God resolves. Nice.
Today on Commander Replay, we check out this Avacyn deck and see how many times we can wipe the board before our opponents scoop. Next on Commander Replay. Hey guys, there's two great ways to support the channel. All links are in the description below.
Welcome back, everyone. Playing some Avacyn Angel of Hope today, and today's deck list comes to us from Patreon supporter Jared. Let's take a look at this opener. Oh man, a bunch of high drops, Mask of Memory. I think I'm gonna mulligan that. I like the mask, but we have nothing to put it on. This is a little better with Weathered Wayfarer. Also Gift of Estates. Yeah, this is much better. So this is actually the second game I'm filming with this. We just tried one a few minutes ago, and I had a handful of ramp. Went Soul Ring, Mana Rock, Keeper of the Accord, Endless Atlas. And Mango played like a turn 4 Hour Revelation and just destroyed everything, put me down to one card in hand. And this deck has Eldrazi in it, which means if you have one card in hand, like that's it, right? You won't be able to cast anything ever again. I had 3 lands when that happened. So absolutely brutal, and like, you know, nothing wrong with that play, but God, it just sucks because this is a mono white deck, and this is built like a mono white deck from 6-7 years ago. It's got a very old school vibe to it, and you just have no ability to recover if you're down to one card in hand and you have no mana. 3 lands, and the CMC in this deck goes up to like 11. Yeah, we'll take a look at it. Here's the top end of the deck. Looks very old school. Got some legendary Eldrazi, Blightsteel, Rhea, Akroma, Elishnorn. Yeah. This stuff is great if you have mana. If someone blows up all your stuff and you have 3 lands, yep, not going to do anything. So, here we are into game 2. What are we doing? We're on the play, which is a little awkward for all this stuff, but still no green decks at the table, which is frustrating. I guess we should play the tap land first, because Weather Wayfarer on the play is fairly awkward. Gift of Estates on the play is pretty awkward, too. It's all pretty awkward. Eventually, at some point, if the Weathered Wayfarer gets going, we can get some really cool lands with the Weathered Wayfarer. So anyway, let's take a look at our commander. It's Avacyn Angel of Hope, 8 mana for an 8/8, Flying Vigilance, Indestructible. Other permanents you control have Indestructible. Yep, it's a really powerful effect. If you've been playing Commander for any length of time, you've probably seen an Avacyn at some point, albeit not in the command zone usually. And there's a reason for that. So I actually played this deck years before I started the channel, you know. I don't know, 2013, 2014, somewhere around there probably. And I played a couple games with it, and I'm just like, I don't like this deck. It's really like one note in what it does. It's you cast a board wipe, and you either have Avacyn in play or you don't, right? And if you do, people are going to try their best to make sure you don't. And I just didn't care for the play pattern of it all that much. It's very kind of one-trick pony. Everyone knows what you're trying to do, and if they can, they will stop it. So I like decks with at least a teeny bit more nuance than that. But she is a big, powerful card, and if you can't keep her in play, I mean, if you've ever seen an opposing Avacyn in play, like, it's just a brick wall, especially when no one deals with it. You're just like, oh my god, I cannot attack into this player, and they'll probably hit you for 8 every turn, so they're getting damage in, and it's a whole thing. She is very strong. And also a lightning rod for removal, and rightfully so, right? So you're going to removal check the table when you drop an Avacyn. Brings back to our turn. There's another land. Let's go ahead, play the Weathered Wayfarer. Are we going to try what we did last game and try to Enlighten Tutor into a Soul Ring? We might. Or might Enlighten Tutor into a Mask of Memory. If there's no blockers for this next turn cycle, I might go that way. Soul Ring is good, but we need more cards, and that was basically what got us in trouble in the last game where Mango dropped the board wipe, is that just, we had no cards, right? Had one card in hand, it was a Mask of Memory, but like there's not a lot of low drop creatures. I'm literally just going to watch everyone else play Magic for the next hour if we stay in this game, so yay. Isn't Commander fun? But in all seriousness, that does happen, right? Sometimes you go one way, your opponents go the other, and sometimes things just suck. That's a Soul Ring. Probably off the Vampire Tutor. Although this deck, it's a little aggressive. It's not insane. Bontu's Monument's a card. Importantly, still no blockers up. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for the Mask of Memory just to get that extra value. I know ramping is good. Theoretically, in some timetable, Gift of Estates and Weathered Wayfarer will get us lands. And particularly stuff like Nykthos and things like that. So that's all good. But yeah, with mono white, drawing cards is the absolute worst. So That's the direction I want to go here. Swiftfoot Boots. Cast Enlightened Tutor. Get our... You know, I put a Temple Bell in this deck. That's not a terrible choice either. I don't really feel like feeding our opponents, though. At least at this moment. Yeah, we'll get the Mask of Memory. We draw the Mask. Play the land. Play the Mask. Equip the Mask. People criticize me for running Mask of Memory in every deck. And the problem is that when I don't run Mask of Memory, I have a terrible time. Because I run out of cards. It's just such a good Magic card. Hit with the Mask. Draw with the Mask. I was hoping it was going to be less awkward than that. I actually think it's Gift of Estates, which makes me sad, because Weathered Wayfarer and Gift of Estates overlap in what they do. Also, the way things are going, I don't actually know at what point opponents are going to have more lands than us. So yeah, that Gift of Estates not looking amazing right now. Ideally, we can get one more turn of no blockers, would be nice. There's Ratadrabik coming in for Mango. Yeah, that one's nasty. We'll take a look at what our opponents are playing. So, Mango piloting Ratadrabik, as we mentioned. 4 mana, 3/3, Vigilance, Ward 2. Other zombies you control have Vigilance. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's not legendary, it's 2 and is a 2/2 black zombie. Bajukabog hitting us. Yeah, not too bad. In mono white, you don't really have ways to get back sorceries and instants, which is unfortunate. Ghoul-Claw Gisa. You know, that's actually a thing. So, like, if you're mono white, and I've talked about this at points, doing, like, when I did the, like, 3 things mono white needs video. One of the highest viewed videos on the channel. Very exciting. Anyway, when you're mono white, you have almost no way to interact with instants and sorceries in your graveyard. Like, there's no way to get them back, like, no way to double them or, like, really do much of anything with them. So it's unfortunate when they put powerful effects, especially on like a sorcery in mono white, because it's like, you know, you're only going to be able to do it one time and that's it, right? Like, it's not in green. In green, you have Eternal Witness. In blue, you have a lot of ways to get spells back. Red has a couple ways to get spells back. Black maybe doesn't have a ton, but there's Yawgmoth's Will, and there's what's the guy from Portal 3 Kingdoms? Zhu-Dun the One-Eyed or something like that? I'm sure I didn't say that right. So there are a couple ways. There's also the Magus also. So, like, you know, there's a little bit in black. But yeah, in mono white, just nothing. Literally nothing. And at this point in the game, given that the other 4 colors have, like, some ways to get a spell back, maybe it's time for mono white to get one too. Anyway, brings it back to our turn. Opponents are all on 3 lands. It's still awkward for us. No blockers over there. That's good news. Into Mock. Hit with the Mask. Mask trigger. Let's see what we get. A bunch of lands. That being the case, I'm going to ditch the Myriad Landscape, even though it's a really good card. It's getting a little late for the Landscape. It's going to be awkward at whatever point we need to cast it. So let's go Bonder's Enclave, and we'll get the Smothering Tithe in, and that'll really get us going. And given our opponent's colors at the table, probably not tons and tons of enchantment removal. We got mono red, black red, and white black. The white black deck might have some, but the red deck and the red black deck probably have like 1 or 2 cards between them that deal with enchantments. So, and this is a super high curve deck. Let's take a look at the deck actually. So I think I already showed it one time, but here's the top end of this deck. A bunch of legendary Eldrazi, big angels, very reminiscent of like a 2015 era mono white commander deck. These are just the things you needed to close a game out back then, because mono white just didn't have great ways of really punching out damage. And really, for the most part, like, a lot of decks were using these in, you know, that 2010 to 2015 era, because they just were kind of the best way to close a game out. They were hard to kill, they're big, and they just do a lot. In today's day and age, things are quite a bit different. You really don't see the legendary Eldrazi that much anymore, because they are so expensive. And people understand how to use removal better, so, like, there is that. And just a lot can happen before they hit the board now. Like, games can be over long before you can ever cast one of them, depending on the circumstances. So people have gotten smaller and more efficient. Things are more synergy based, where you get a couple smaller things working together, and it can actually create an even bigger effect than just trying to cast a Kozilek or something like that. But anyway, the early half of this deck is almost entirely mana ramp. I did make I don't know, maybe about 5 or 6 changes before going into this. One thing that caught me a little weird is that there were some mana dorks. There was the Infect guy and Ornithopter of Paradise, which seems a little weird in a deck with like 9+ board wipes. I counted 9 in the sorcery department, and I think there might be like 1 or 2 more as artifacts. So that being the case, I don't think you really want mana dorks for your mana production. I did add a Boreas Charger though, because, you know, pretty good likelihood it's probably going to die, and Great way to get some lands going. So I tweaked a few things there. There were a couple cards that weren't available. Deep Gnome Terramancer still can't find on Magic Online for some reason. Battle Angels of Tyr not available on Magic Online. So I had a couple deck slots to work with there. Changed the mana base a teeny bit too. So big things are going to be Bonder's Enclave and Makokoro. Where is it? Makokoro. Because you're mono white. You need to draw cards. Sometimes you're not going to get your value pieces in the early game. And these are just helpful to have around. They're an insurance policy is what they are. I think I added an Endless Atlas, and I also added a Temple Bell. I forgot what came out for those, probably Mana Dorks and things that just look like they're going to get blown up really easily. Notably, the 3 cards that I did not see are Armageddon, Catastrophe, and Cataclysm. Cards that, if I were running this deck, I would probably run, because that's kind of how this deck wins the game. You blow up all the lands while you still have... Oh, World Slayer also. Didn't see a World Slayer in here. You know, you blow up everything else while no one has anything. And even though they're probably still alive, I assume, generally speaking, most people will just scoop the game at that point. And like I kind of said, this deck tends to be really one note. So it's not a deck that, like, I thoroughly enjoy, but it is cool to check it out again. Kind of getting a look into the past with this particular build and the Eldrazi. So opponent, last turn they got themselves a Gulkar Gisa. They sacrificed this Mad Auntie to make 2 zombies. They're down to 1 card in hand. Mango's got a Cabal Coffers in. Careful with that. They've got Eily. Interesting. Oh, that's a sack outlet is what that is. I wouldn't normally use removal on Eily, but I'm actually considering it. Opponents haven't given us any treasures yet. How rude of them. See what Mock's doing. Mock gives us one. There we go. I mean, dare I say that I don't even know how well this deck can operate without a Smothering Tithe. Trying to cast Eldrazi in mono white in today's day and age without a Smothering Tithe seems difficult. It seems like a Herculean task. It's not that you can't ramp your way there, it's the interaction along the way, right? So if opponent sees you drop like Manifold Key, Thran Dynamo, Gilded Lotus, right? Some removal's probably going to be coming in your direction, and while you're trying to do that, it's just the mono white problem, right? If you do that, that means that your hand's probably empty because you just cast all your cards, and then you can't defend yourself, and it's that whole can of worms. Get to see all of mono white's deficiencies on display. Importantly, Mock still doesn't have a blocker, which means we can just keep poking in over there. So far, feeling pretty good about this Mask of Memory decision, because we could have just as easily gone for Soul Ring. Pro Medallion is nice. Anyone have more lands than us? 4? Nope. We're winning the land race. Awkward with Gift of Estates, Weathered Wayfarer, but yeah. So far, happy with the Mask of Memory decision. Poke Mock. This is one of those subtle things, but when you have a Mask of Memory play like this one, where we've already got everything in play, we don't immediately have anything to do before combat, holding your land is actually a big deal, because if we draw 2 cards we really want, we might discard the land. Now, we probably want to make a land drop, but it just gives you the option to see and make the best decision available to what's going on, where if you drop the land, you might have to get rid of something else that you really want. It just kind of depends on the situation, but, you know, essentially, you're just having more information when you make the decision right here. You're having more cards to choose from, so. Anyway, there's the Mass Trigger, there's 2 more, yeah. So easy enough, we just discard the land. We play the land. There's a couple of things we could do here. Opponents are all really low on cards. We could actually play the Temple Bell. I might. Just because it's a fun card. This is another one that I added because I was kind of looking at the deck. I'm like, this deck is going to need card draw. There's no way we're getting to Eldrazi and all the mana that they need without just more cards. Though I kind of want the Gisela. Maybe we go... Let's go Pearl Medallion Gisela, and then we'll get Temple Bell next turn. Because Gisela can continue to get us mask triggers, even if blockers come down in every direction, which I like, so... Oh, we probably didn't have to use the treasure right there. It's fine, we can just move the mask over. Although, you know what? Maybe I'm holding up the swords for Mango in case Mango wants to get a little too cute over there. Yeah, I think that's what I'm doing. We'll pass like that. Because they've got the sack outlet. Like, if they put something real nasty on the stack, might just shoot the Eily. Oh god, is there an Urborg? Someone's got... Yeah, there's an Urborg in play. Urborg with coffers. Mango's making a lot of extra mana. Leaving up the swords, probably a good idea. Elenda of the Dusk Rose. Oh, that thing makes a ton of tokens, doesn't it? I think we can let that resolve. It's just not... That's not going to just, like, immediately annihilate our board. It's probably still not going to be great, but 3-3, over to Mock. What is interesting is the cat and mouse between our deck and Mango's deck. So Mango's deck, a lot of recursion built into the commander, which means they can take a board wipe and really not lose all that much. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out with us, a deck full of board wipes. Because if multiple wipes could be a problem for them, but one single one may not slow them down that much. So could be a really interesting dynamic as the game wears on. Did I finish introducing opponents, by the way? In the middle, we've got Illegal Xeno piloting Garna, Bloodfist of Keld. This is the Zombie Goblins deck that we looked at a little while ago on the channel. Looks like they made a few updates to it and are trying to work through those and test some things. I thought this was a really interesting concept for a deck. So it's built around the card called Drawnloo's Crusade, which is apparently a really old card that was not on my radar until I played the deck. We should probably look it up for those at home. All goblins get +1/+1. All goblins are black and are zombies in addition to their other types. So that's kind of what this deck is doing. It's a dual tribe deck, which is really interesting, right? That's just not something you see a lot of where people are really specifically built on two tribes. Anyway, what I kind of theorized looking at the deck, because the deck does present challenges to you. It's not the easiest thing to make work. It's a thing that you play because you want to, not because it's going to be the most powerful thing at the table. And what I realized is that, I think you want a very good goblin deck, and you want a couple of good zombie payoffs. In my opinion, I actually don't know if Gulkar Gisa is good enough. It's solid. It's not a bad card. I guess the fact that it works without specifically zombies is probably fine. But there's some other stuff in the deck, like Death Baron's in the deck. To me, Death Baron probably isn't strong enough for all the setup that has to go on to, make all this stuff work. In my opinion, stuff like Noxious Ghoul is probably where you want to be, and there's one or two other, zombie cards that just, when you play them, it's like dropping the hammer, and they will make you win the game, in reasonably short fashion. That's how I would approach building this deck. I don't think they've gone quite that extreme from my advice. I think it's still kind of half and half, so... but we'll see what happens as the game gets going on. Luckily for them, their commander does have a little bit of card draw built in, so that can be nice. Then finally over here, we've got Mockfire. Haven't seen Mock in a game in quite a long time, and they're running their classic Etali deck. This is a pretty good Etali deck. It's full of extra combats. There might be an Eldrazi or two. There's a bunch of nasty stuff in it, and, once they start attacking with it, it's kind of a problem. In fact, they may even be on Hasty Etali right here. So the problem becomes, I would really like to save this Swords for Mango, but there's Eldrazi in our deck. Do I want to chance? No, we can't chance it. There's just too many Eldrazi in our deck. There's too many big dumb things in this deck that Etali will just be a nightmare to deal with. But I am very sad. I was hoping to save that for whatever I was going to have to do for Mango. Yep. In a deck that's smaller and more efficient, given the circumstances here, I may actually let that go. But based on what our deck's doing, I just can't let that stick. Especially since we have a lot of board wipes. Theoretically, we could draw one next turn and just wipe the board that way. But brings it back to our turn. That's a dismantling wave. We could probably wait. Can we wait? Mango doesn't have anything terribly interesting. Mango will, at some point, will probably attempt a Grave Pact. Man, Gisela gets us life if we attack, but Gisela's also holding off a lot of potential attackers. So I think we just keep attacking with the Weathered Wayfarer. Poke and Mock. Death by Paper Cut. Hit with the mask. Draw. Land Wrath of God. Interesting. What are we getting rid of? Oh, man. Think Heliod's Intervention is good in the late game, and it's good when you have a lot of mana, which we do because we have Smothering Tithe. So I think we're getting rid of Dismantling Wave. Play the Emeria. Get the Cage Sun in. Choosing white. Yeah, I guess we just get the Temple Bell then. I do think Etali's just going to come right back, though. It's more manageable if we have a Wrath of God, which we now have. Opponent's going to sack their Elenda. Yep. You can gain some life with Eiley. Eiley does become removable at some point. What do you need, 10 more? 10 more than your starting life total. Watch out for that. So for a deck like this, I wanted to talk about this one, by the way. I added this Temple Bell because Mono White sucks at card draw. I think in a deck like this, Temple Bell is a very reasonable inclusion because you're chock full of board wipes, right? Yeah, you're going to give your opponents a few cards, but you're also going to be repeatedly blowing them away. So giving them a few extra in the name of you not running out seems very reasonable. Are there times where it will backfire? Sure. But it's much better than you being empty-handed with nothing to do And for example, like, let's say the green deck draws 6 or 7 cards. They have a bunch of stuff to do, and they're going to be constrained by the amount of mana they have, where you're just going to be out of stuff. So, like, them drawing an extra card probably isn't that big of a deal, where we have 2 cards in hand. Drawing an extra card for us, kind of a big deal right now. Well, everyone's pretty low, actually. So, we're the only ones that really been drawing cards in any sense. Light pokes from Mango over to the other players. Garna, Bloodfist of Keld coming in, yeah. If I were them, I would be trying to get some creatures dead so they could draw cards. So I'd probably turn all those zombies sideways. They could probably sack one too. Oh yeah, they're turning zombies sideways. They might sack the attacker, which would be annoying. Block a zombie? Yeah, so they sack the attacker, so we're not going to gain the life, which is frustrating. All about gaining 5 extra life. And they get more zombies. Yep, we get poked for 2. I actually run Temple Bell in my Munda Allies deck, and it's reasonable there because you know what's on top of your library a lot of the time, and you're just like, okay, I have the ally I need on top. I need to get it into my hand, and it's good enough. Like, yeah, giving your opponent's cards may not be great, but once you get to the point where you really want to be using that effect, it tends to be more in your favor than it is necessarily for your opponents. So, and again, that same sort of thing that if your opponents already have cards in hand, giving them 1 extra isn't a big deal. It's when they have nothing to do and then you're feeding them cards that might be, and there might be times you don't activate it because of that. But it is a reasonable safeguard against running out of things to do, even though there's some cost. Like, Skull Clamp is through and through a much better card that's much more powerful, but it's also a lot more expensive. I don't know what these things cost. They can't be too expensive. So, also, no one's going to shoot this ever. People will definitely shoot your Skull Clamp. There's a Neheb. Yeah, they can keep a Neheb. God, I love the art on this card. Just such a cool card. The effect is very unique, too. Afflict, there's a mechanic that's on basically nothing. And then, of course, the make all the mana. And, I don't know, there's something weird about this card that Neheb is a surprisingly good blocker, which just most red creatures don't block. They have so much incentive to attack, and yeah, there is a lot of incentive to attack with Neheb, but when you don't have haste for it, and it just sits there for that turn, you're like, oh yeah, no one really has great attacks into me, because it's a 4/6. Combustible Gearhulk, weirdly the same way. Really good blocker because of the first strike. Almost every other red creature, you're just like, well, turn it sideways. Not necessarily with those all the time. No attacks from the Neheb. I mean, they could have forced that through us. Probably worried about tricks. End step, Temple Bell. Each player draws a card. Remote Farm. Oh, God. Temple Bell triggers our Smothering Tithe. I forgot about that. There's a reason to run a Temple Bell. Yeah, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Makokoro, notably, does the same thing. Also, Gaia Reach Sanitarium. Given how badly this deck probably needs to have a Smothering Tithe in play, I would make sure to run all of those lands for that reason. Because, yeah, if you're trying to cast Eldrazi, this deck just needs the Smothering Tithe. Brings back to our turn. There's a Nykthos. Nykthos is super helpful. Play that. It is unfortunate how expensive these things are. They could use a meaningful reprint where they actually come down to, I'd be happy to pay like maybe $10 for a couple of them. 25 or whatever they are is too much. I mean, I think we cast an Avacyn. Sack of treasure doing so. Yeah, I mean, I guess we could just wipe the board. Wipe the board. Actually, if Mango has removal, let's just wait a second before we do that. Let's put the mask. Let's move the mask around. Ah, crap. Tapped it for 2. Well, we'll activate the Bonder's Enclave because I was planning to do that anyway. Guess we use the Mistveil Plains. Draw the Bonder's Enclave. Path of Exile. Helpful. Send this thing into Mango. Yep, that's what I was worried about. Mango does indeed have the swords, and I'm actually glad that we're baiting it on the Gisela and not on the Avacyn. I'm sad that we won't get to draw the cards, but we have done a lot with this Mask of Memory already. Now we try the board wipe. Mango's going to start stacking stuff. Okay. Oh, they're probably going to get above the life total. Ooh, yeah, I don't like where that's going. What if we just exile this Etali right now before the trouble starts? Crap, there's just going to be 2 more of them. Ooh, Plumb the Forbidden. Gross. Well, we got a little stack going here. Mango's got a bunch of sack triggers, and we've got a board wipe and a piece of spot removal. Oh, Mango draws a lot, which gives us treasures, which means even if Avacyn goes down for some reason right here, we can probably recast her. Maybe we might be a touch short, but definitely next turn. Wrath of God resolves. Nice. Garna is going to do 1 damage each opponent a few times. It's pretty helpful. The Elenda triggers will get negated. We have done the thing. We have played a board wipe with Avacyn on the board, and now everyone's going to hate us, and we'll probably be the archenemy for the rest of this game. We could Temple Bell right now, because we have a lot of mana, but I don't want to feed everyone else the extra card. So I think I'm just going to wait to the end step again. What we can do, though, is put the mask on the Avacyn. Mango does make a bunch of 1/1s. We'll move the mask with our remaining mana. Double check that this can't be activated. It cannot, and we pass like that. If we wanted to drive the nail in the coffin, we could Heliod's Intervention and blow up all the mana rocks. We've already kind of stuck it to opponents a little bit this game, so if we don't have to... Though with Etali, if Etali's in play, it's a problem. There's all of that. Dread Return, getting back the commander. Oh, they can flash it back and get something else back. Erebos. We'll shut off any hopes of life gain. I was looking at this at some point, you know, if our life gets low. Helpful trick to have around, but not with an Erebos. They flash back the Etali. Yeah, that's a play. One thing I've been thinking about before this game started, you probably want some Graveyard Exile in this deck. I don't know how much is in here, but whatever it is, you probably want more. A Tormod's Crypt, a Soul Guide Lantern, what's the equipment? Lion Sash I'd probably put in. Leyline of the Void, there you go. That's what we need. When we blow people's stuff up, we need it to stay dead, particularly Mango's. Yeah, I was thinking that because the way the game plays now, you can wipe the board every turn and people can still fight their way through it with haste or with recursion, Eternal Witness type stuff. It's not necessarily just going to keep everyone from doing the thing. So board wipe plus graveyard removal probably will. But again, it's the mono white problem. You just don't really get like extra cards to work with. Tormod's Crypt is like, for most of the game, is not a highly impactful card until that moment when you need it. And like, you know, we're at 2 cards in hand and we've been drawing a pretty good amount. We've drawn like probably 4 with the mask. We'll be up to 2 with the Temple Bell, be up to 2 probably on our turn with this. And, you know, well, there's an Etali. Pray it's not an Eldrazi. Boots on it. Etali trigger. Sending it over to Xeno. Day of Judgment. Ooh, sudden spoiling. Well, I guess we're starting over. Do they cast them in the right order? I think they did it in the wrong order. Oh, no, they didn't cast the Day of Judgment. That's why. They sudden spoiling us, though. It's not great. They find something. That's okay. We don't need a board wipe this turn. Would ideally like to find like an Eldrazi or something to help drop the hammer a little quicker. It's good for keeping the Etali off the board, but what can you do? Ah, crap. I forgot. Oh, did I forget it? I missed the Temple Bell. Got chatting. Well, we'll do it now. There's another board wipe. Esper Sentinel. More Smothering Tithes. Let's activate the Bonder's Enclave. Blind Obedience. Oh, man. Okay. Let's go to combat. We'll send in the 2/2 to Xeno just because they got no blockers. We got this big Avacyn, and we're probably going to wipe the board again. Blind Obedience will actually help us close the game out a little quicker because we can start draining life a little bit. Although we can't gain the life because of Erebos. That's frustrating. Still, putting a faster clock on our opponents would be ideal. Mask of Memory. Those cards are fine. Boreas Charger not doing... I mean, Boreas Charger is a flying attacker. Yeah, we can live without Boreas Charger. We haven't played a land yet, so I'd like to do that. Play the land, play the Blind Obedience, cast Gilded Lotus. Use a couple treasures, we seem to have a lot of them. We'll extort, we'll tap this, paying the extort, cast Esper Sentinel, we'll extort, we'll Doomscar. I'm doing this because the ley line's in play, we can get Mango stuff into exile, which I like. Extort again, blow up all the creatures, pass like that. Telling opponents it's cool if they scoop over the next turn or two if they don't catch anything, just because this ain't fun. This is not a fun position for our opponents to be in. Yeah, that's kind of that's my thing with this deck, is that like it's not the most fun for me. I would prefer to be doing, I don't know, just everything's so hinged on like Avacyn then board wipe, right? And I like just a little more nuanced than that. And you know, it's that whole thing is like, if I get to do the thing, no one else gets to play their deck at all. And if they shoot your Avacyn with the board wipe on the stack, then you don't really get to do the thing. And, you know, it's just one of those kind of decks. It's just, you know, it's not my cup of tea. Mango recast their commander. Felwar Stone into the Esper Sentinel. Disenchant could be helpful at some point. Now, I will say a large portion of our board state can be attributed to the Smothering Tithe. We would not have nearly this much stuff in play if it weren't for that. because we would have been much slower to the cage. Oh, that's a living death. Okay. We have any creatures in the graveyard at all? Negative. Can we get any of our creatures killed? We cannot. Well, guess that's going to happen. Oh, they go to exile. Probably should have shot the ley. The ley line's better against Mango than more so than it hurts us, so I'll just take that. I'll take that loss right there. Neheb is back. That's scary. Xeno's got a few things back. Combat Celebrant, fairly nasty card. Does come in tapped. Ha, Blind Obedience. Nice. So nasty. So nasty. I came up in a video a couple weeks ago. This card can just be backbreaking, especially against red decks, which there's 2 of them at the table. Boots on the Neheb. Yep. In our way, yep. What we can do, I'm going to put Dismantling Wave back into our library. 4 mana for opponent. We're down to 28. Ooh, they're going to double that effect. Oh, yeah, that seems pretty good. That seems pretty... I might have to put one of those in my Neheb deck. Mine's the red creatures I want to play tribal deck. Just a bunch of big dumb red creatures. It's very exciting. There's 8 red mana. Yeah, no big deal. The Immortal Sun. That's a magic card. Mirage. Oh, that's terrifying. That is terrifying. Thran Dynamo. Not exactly what I was hoping on. Cast Thran Dynamo. Extort. Yes. So, like, what's actually a big deal here is that, like, we'd actually be in line to gain a lot of life with Extort. I think we'd be at, like, plus 12 already. Instead, we're still at 28. Yeah, it's a good thing we've had Smothering Tithe all game, because this would be really expensive otherwise. Extort. Temple Bell. Crystal Vein is not what I'm looking for. More Smothering Tithe triggers. I guess we, well, draw with the Bonder's Enclave. Makokoro. Play a Makokoro. Almost played this one, too. Draw with the Makokoro. It's like we're playing Group Hug over here. Another Plains. Gross. Equip the Mask, and I think we've done everything we can do. Pass like that. Would hope to get an attack off next turn and be able to loot some lands away with the Mask. We are leading our opponents by a lot of cards. We have 65 in library versus 80, 80, and 79. Yeah, we have valued much, much harder than our opponents. I think we've drawn 5 with the Mask, 2 or 3 with the Enclave, probably 3 to 4 with the Temple Bell, maybe more than that. Hearth and Home is not great for us. Equips the Hearth and Home. You know, if it doesn't come in our direction, we might just let it go through. Nadar. Oh, I don't know, maybe if we let all that stick, maybe all these red creatures will go attack over there. We'll just try to wait things out for a second here and see how things play out. Dungeon of the Mad Mage, they gain a life. It is, in fact, coming in our way. I think I'm going to try to play that card where we let Mango become the threat. I don't know that we'll get attacked by them. Maybe we will. They have 3 creatures. It's going to be tough. The problem is, like, if they attack us, they lose whatever they send at us because of Avacyn. Yeah, they're going to blink the Nadar. I would love to get the Erebos out of play, though, because I would love to be gaining life. Would feel a lot better about my situation if we were gaining life. God, we'd be at like 40. Probably be above 40. If we can find 2 extra commander damage. 2? 3? Got 9 already. That'd be 18. We need 3 extra commander damage to take Mango out in this next turn. Though I think life... yeah, I mean, life totals are probably going to get obliterated when it comes to Mock's turn. Draws with Erebos. That's probably the thing to be scared about. I mean... yeah, what we're doing is scary. Like, it's also hard to attack into. Avacyn just makes it, like, almost impossible to attack into profitably. Ooh, Yawgmoth. That's one that could get Mango attacked. That's a nasty card. So, yeah, my hope is that with Mango doing stuff and being active, that Mock will just be like, okay, I'll send all my creatures over here and kill Mango. Because, again, we're mono white, and this deck in particular is just slow to close the game out. And... even though it's not going to be fun, in some sense, I think you're probably better off running World Slayer, Armageddon, Cataclysm, just because you actually end the game. Now, you could theoretically end the game like fairly quickly if you have a Smothering Tithe, you know, probably turn 6, turn 7, before people really get a chance to do anything. But, I mean, the other thing with those, too, is that if someone shoots the Avacyn on the stack, then the game is probably destroyed for everyone. But at least at that point, you can all just, like, scoop and start a new game if you want. I don't know. One of my things with mono-white decks, particularly with, like, mono-white stacks, is that the thing I hate is that once they establish control, they don't have a quick way to end the game. It's like, okay, you have control of the board, that's fine. Could you please just end the game now, right? Like, I get it, I can't do anything, but we're still several turns away from you being able to, if not, like, many turns. If you ever see, like, 2-mana Thalia as a commander, you're like, oh god, this is going to be the slowest, most terrible thing ever. Siege Gang commander coming in, yeah, we can pump a little damage on stuff. Phyrexian Altar. Opponent can make our Avacyn smaller, which I don't love. Opponent sacks, they don't do it in combat, though. I'd be sacrificing attacking creatures to get more cards. Though maybe they're also thinking along with the just drain everyone's life plan. Alright, let's see what Mock's thinking over there. Maybe we need to shoot the Strionic Resonator. That might be a good idea. There's the awkward main phase 1 land with Morog, which means they will untap out of sequence and they'll effectively lose some of their extra combats. Yep, there's the out of order untap. You need Vigilance to get around that, which they don't have currently. They will get extra combat with Combat Celebrant, though. Full scale into Mango. This is exactly what we want to see. And with the damage bonus from Morog, that is a lot of damage. 20, I think? I hope they don't have a burn spell. Yeah, I might disenchant that Strionic Resonator. Avoid any sort of catastrophes that might happen with that. We'll wait till after they declare their second attack. Mango does have some action where they can sack and kill some stuff, I think, though. In particular, they could kill the Combat Celebrant. Wouldn't take too much. Mango goes down to 3. Let's see what the second combat looks like. The Celebrant does not untap. We're very close to being able to kill Mango with Blind Obedience triggers. Morog over to Xeno. Neheb over to Mango. I'll be so happy with that Erebos out of play. Creature gains trample and haste. Oh, they're going to give the Morog trample into the Xeno. Speed up the clock a bunch. Mango goes down, and what's notable here is that if no Blind Obedience, Mango would have blockers. They'd be able to sack this and get a bunch of blockers. So Blind Obedience, putting in work like it always does. Opponent goes back to combat, but now they've got the out of sequence on tap, so they get kind of screwed right there. Because if they were interested in giving stuff up, they could actually put quite a bit of damage into us. And then, we'd have to be very careful. Crap. Meant to shoot the Resonator before all that happened. Prayed for no burn spell. Although, I guess we have burn spell cover with the Heliod's Intervention now, so I guess that's okay. In some sense, we might be better if they just, cast everything they have and then we can catch a board wipe and blow it all away. Isn't the worst thing. Yep, they're going to Resonator the Neheb trigger for 18 red mana. Empty the hand. Let's see it. Oh, that's 72 red mana. Yeah, that's a lot. If it's the X spell, you don't really run X spells with Etali for the most part, but if it's the X spell, we actually probably can't gain enough life to outrun that. Crackle with Power, that's the one I'm thinking of. They do cast a Kozilek, though. That's a card. That one, thankfully, not indestructible. But we have enough treasures that we can pay the Annihilator. Not that I want to, but we do have the problem of opponents just starting to mass creatures over there. Bunch of Smothering Tide triggers for us on that. That would come in with haste if, I don't know that they have the mana, but theoretically comes in with haste without a Blind Obedience to tap it down. I'd probably also put a Blackblade Reforge in this deck just because that'll speed your clock up. Boots on the Kozilek. 9 cards in hand. Should have the mana for all of them. Be suspicious about anything they don't cast. Fiery Emancipation. Well, that's going to have to be shot. That can't stick. Chandra's Ignition. Yeah, okay, well, we gotta... that'll be 13. Start by shooting the Fiery Emancipation. Make sure I'm doing this right. Disenchant the Fiery Emancipation. It'll get us an Extort trigger. Extort. Still going to be 13. That's half our life. Most of Xeno's life. Probably put Xeno into Blind Obedience range. Make sure I'm not missing anything that's going to double that. Xeno's going to regenerate a Goblin, the Siege Gang commander. Yeah, this is where all those denied life gain triggers on the Extort probably going to start to matter. We're down to 11. Kozilek is the only one that survives. Oh, that's not so bad. They lose a lot of damage with that, but they did think it was going to kill everyone also, so there's that. They didn't know we were holding a disenchant. I'd go for it too right there. That's going to be more damage to each opponent. Yep. Avacyn is really difficult to deal with when you're in mono red. Very few cards that do it. You're generally better off finding some sort of player removal, mob rule, insurrection type stuff. Chaos Warp is really the only good option. Uh-oh, Mock disconnected. Alright, let's see what else Mock has. 7 cards, 45 mana. Multiple burn spells could be a problem. Inferno Titan... I do believe it is time to gain a lot of life. This is probably going to be the most I've ever pumped into this spell. I don't know that I've ever had this much mana for it before. X15 on the Heliod's Intervention. Going to gain ourselves 30 life, and we'll extort one time. You know, the problem is we actually just burned a lot of our mana. So I'm thinking about all the things we need to do to kill both players. We need to extort 3 times to kill Xeno, and probably about 4 to 5 times to kill Mach. Inferno Titan trigger. Our face is probably the best bet. Yep. Just told Mach, been sitting on that chestnut all game. Waiting for the opportune moment. Let's see if the Skyclave Relic is fixed. There's a problem where they might not live long enough to find out. There's a problem where the tokens aren't untapping, and I don't know if they fixed it on Magic Online yet. 35 mana left. See what they got. Purphoros. Purphoros is pretty good. They run out of things to do right there. 4 cards left in hand. You have to wonder what. Because they had so much mana that, you know, they probably just cast anything they have. The question is, Ooh, Plains is not what we were looking for. So, start by swinging into Mach. Actually, maybe we should have... unlikely that we would have drawn anything with haste. Although, equipment, maybe? Yeah. Too late now. Into Mach. Definitely got to loot some lands away. Mask of Memory. MVP this game, along with Smothering Tithe, which is just insane. But Mask of Memory, keeping us going, keeping us from getting stuck. There's the trigger. Draw 2. Cosmos Elixir. Oh, another land. Discard the Plains. Actually, probably should discard the Crystal Vein, honestly. But play the Plains. Actually, before we do that, let's go through all of our draw. Makokoro. Oh, we've hit all the lands. We have hit all of the lands. Probably can't kill them now, which means we need to survive a turn. Oh, Mach can actually pay for some of them. Well, Temple Bell. Vanquish the Horde is actually very helpful. Activate the Bonder's Enclave. Draw our last card. Route. Xeno's gonna survive, I think. Cast Vanquish. If we really need them dead, we could route. I don't know if we have enough mana to route and extort, honestly. We might. I guess we can leave it up, but... Blind Obedience. Play Plains. Play the Cosmos Elixir. And extort one more time. If we really need to route, we will. Since it doesn't kill both of them. I'm just going to sit on it. Oh, man. We're literally 1 life short of drawing the card. Blind Obedience also putting in work this game. Up to 41. Xeno gets a turn at 1. Mox at 2. They would need a lot. Ugin would do a lot for them. Ugin are all as dust. Endrixar, sure. Funny story. Xeno might be able to kill Mach. Actually, they're both at 1. Nope. Xeno's still at 2. Xeno went up a life. Okay. Yep, Route doesn't do it against Xeno anymore. Garna back in. This'll kill Mach. Except Xeno is kind of dead in the water to us. Didn't expect that. I mean, I thought we would be killing either of our opponents. And Xeno sneaking out a little kill right there. Even though it looks like they probably don't have an answer for us. That's all right. At least they got to do something. You know, even if you can't win a game, at least if you can kill a player, you can feel reasonably good about, you know, being able to do something in that game. Someone made a comment earlier that the mistake here was no one brought a blue deck. Counterspells would go a long way against... Counterspells and bounce would go a long way against what we're doing. Opponent sacrificing some stuff, pinging some damage. We go down to 35. Ib, Half-Heart Goblin Tactician. There's one you don't see. Bontus and Endrixar. Yep. Down to 34. Make 2 goblins. Well, they can do a lot of sacking right here. Oh, no. Oh, no. I have 6 right there. That may have been a good time to route. Oh. Wait, it wasn't that. Goblin Bombardment's pretty scary. I think they're just about out of mana, though. Making it close. Yeah, there's a lot of damage triggers at our face. And so, I think the key... I mean, so we had a Mask of Memory in play all game. Smothering Tithe in play all game. Blind Obedience in play for quite a while. Those have been keys. I think the other key element was that Disenchant. Not burning it on the Hearth and Home. Because I think a lot of people in that situation do. And because if we have to use Heliod's Intervention to blow up the Fiery Emancipation, that means we don't gain the life, and that means that all this stuff is lethal to us. So waiting just a little longer than most people would, I think, was the right call on that Hearth and Home, and shooting the Fiery Emancipation instead. Brings back to our turn. There's a Bruna. We'll drop into Plains just cuz. Straight to combat. Send in the Big Angel. Yeah, what they get us? I think they got us for like 15, probably, with the triggers. Yeah, so yeah, not not burning the disenchant too early to hold the life gain on the Heliod's. Big play. Big play. Down they go. Yeah, we were able to kind of weather the storm. Opponent had Open the Graves, Maskwood Nexus. Oh, God. Yeah, those are things. So this deck, yeah, it looks like a 2016 mono white deck. Having played 2016 mono white decks, I think I'm over that experience and am looking for new experiences, because this stuff is just so big and fragile to get to, and you know, it's gonna eat removal. Like, if someone's been holding a Swords or a Path, they're gonna use it on one of these things. I get why they're in here, because you're already planning to ramp to get to Avacyn. I might look for, like, faster ways to close the game out. A Blackblade Reforged, Cataclysm, Armageddon, any Voltron stuff. Stratascythe is gonna be legit and speed up your clock a lot. Duelist Heritage for the double strike is gonna be sweet. I'd probably go a little more Voltron-esque. I guess it's just because that's me. But in today's day and age, I would probably try to speed this deck up a little bit, because you saw us, we were basically just out there with an Avacyn, which is pretty good, but we didn't have a whole lot else going on. And, you know, just kind of waiting, hoping opponents couldn't make too big of plays on us, and Mach nearly killed us. Like, they almost got off the Chandra's Ignition with triple damage, and even Xeno nearly killed us if we didn't gain 30 or 40 life back. Those triggers would have easily killed us. So yeah, those are the keys of the game. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, feel free to comment, like, or subscribe. Thank you for watching.
I want to thank my awesome Patreon supporters. You guys are awesome. If you want to help support the channel, vote on which decks I play next, or if you want to get some good games of Spell Table, be sure to check out my Patreon at the link below.